Hello, thank you so much for watching. This video is going to talk about how to find your spot on the marching field. Set your dot, as people call it, or find your coordinate. It's really important for every student in a marching band to be confident, to know how to set themselves. It helps them to feel better about the process and then they can contribute. But it's also even more important for the overall band to be able to move quickly, efficiently. If everybody's doing their job and knows how to do it well, the overall band will really improve their pace of learning, and it helps everybody. We will begin this discussion by actually just looking at a diagram of a typical marching field and talk a little bit about that.
Notice the different parts of the marching band field. This is a sample coordinate sheet. Notice the side 1, side 2 column is all left to right information, and the visitor home column is all front to back information.
Okay, now since you've become familiar with what a typical marching field looks like and kind of understand the geography of that, and you've also seen an example of what a coordinate sheet looks like, the information that you need to be able to set yourself perfectly. Now let's start to talk about the general process of how to set yourself. Really, it's not a hard process, although it is important to kind of take it step by step so that you organize it in your mind so you start to feel very comfortable. The first bit of information that we like to focus on is left to right. Okay, one end zone over here, one end zone over there. What kind of information do you need to know going left to right? And then the second big idea is what information do you need to know going from forward, the front sideline, where your band director generally teaches, or where the home crowd sits, and or backfield, where the visitors are. So you're thinking left and right, side 1, side 2 we call it, and then front and back, front and behind. The overall idea, and we'll kind of go through the overall steps all together at once. Some people like to see it all together, and then we'll also go each individual step, and that might also help you learn. So the things that we're looking for are we on side 1, side 2? What yard line are we on? Are we inside or outside of that yard line, which we'll discuss, and then how many steps? Okay, so the very first step in order to set yourself in drill is really the most important, I believe. I think it's the thing that most people do forget. So for me, it's a money step, and it's to turn yourself around, actually. Go from front to backfield. So now I'm facing backfield. I was facing front field. So we're going to want to turn ourselves around to get our orientation correct. Generally, front field is where you're either, if you're in a stadium, it's where the audience sits, or if it's on your practice marching field, it might be where your director sits or stands or has a tower. Backfield would be, obviously, where the visitors would sit during the game, or the back of the field. So the very first step, my money step, is that everybody turn backfield. Okay, since you are turned around now, the next step is to look to see if your coordinate is on side 1 or side 2 of the field. To the left of the 50 is called side 1. To the right of the 50-yard line is called side 2. I will steal kind of an example I got from one of my good friends. He always talks about how when you read a book, you start on the left page and then you go to the right page to read. So like as we're reading the marching field, we start on the left page or side 1 and then continue reading to the right page, side 2. The next bit of information you'll need is what yard line you are on for your coordinates. So obviously on our field here we have a big number 50 right there on the middle of the field, and then that next line to the left of the 50 is called the 45-yard line, 5 yards away, and then clearly labeled the 40-yard line, 35-30 all the way down. Just so you can see on this side, that is the 45 in the middle of the frame, over to the 40, 35, 30. The next step is whether you're inside or outside of any given yard line. I happen to be standing in between the 50 and 40, so I'm on the 45-yard line right here. And if my coordinate tells me that I'm several steps inside the 45, I'm going closer towards the 50. If my coordinates tell me that I'm outside the 45-yard line, that means I'm going away from the 50. So inside is going towards the 50-yard line, the middle of the field. Outside is going away from the 50, over this way. Okay, so once you've determined inside or outside, we'll go ahead and pretend like it's inside for this. Then you need to decide how many steps off of, let's say, the 45-yard line your spot is telling you. One of the biggest parts of marching fundamentals that you do as a part of your marching band experience is to figure out how to go from 1 yard line, the 45, to the 50 in 8 equal sized steps. They're 22.5 inches long. And you'll start to kind of get the feel of what that feels like and starts to look like. So I will show you how to march 8 steps, and this will kind of be your unit of measurement.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, close.
Okay, so now we're going to focus on step size, how far inside or outside of a given yard line your coordinate sheet is telling you. We're going to start with the kind of the foolproof or the basic way. It's almost like doing math without a calculator, knowing the basics behind it, and then we'll kind of add the calculator part later, where there are some kind of cheats on the field, some of the yard lines that you see at the bottom of the frame. You can use them in certain ways, but let's start with the basic way. Okay, so now I'm going to show you kind of the cheat code way, as it were, a little easier way to find your how many steps you are off a yard line. This is kind of like doing math maybe with a calculator. Easier way, a little more efficient as long as you understand the underlying step size. So here it is. I absolutely love this diagram. Found it online at colleyvilleheritageband.com. Wonderful diagram. It shows you what your feet look like in relation to the yard line inserts that are found on most fields. You can see what your feet look like at 1 step off the yard line, 2 steps off the yard line, 3 steps off the yard line, and 4 steps off the yard line, also known as splitting. Do notice in the middle of the diagram that when you're standing 2 steps off the yard line, the outside of the foot does not touch any part of the yard line insert. Also at the bottom of the diagram, when you're standing 3 steps off the yard line, the ball of the foot ends up touching the insert, as shown. Okay, for the second big portion of information that we need to digest, we're looking at the front and back. So we need to make sure, one, that we know if our coordinate is telling us to measure from the home sideline, the home hash, or it might be the visitor hash behind that, or the visitor sideline behind that. Then you need to decide if you are behind it or in front of it, going in front or behind it, and then how many steps you're behind or in front of whatever line or hash we're talking about. This is a side perspective of the field. Are you on the home sideline we just passed? Are you on the home hash we just passed? Are you on the visitor hash towards the back of the field, right there? Or are you all the way at the back of the field on the visitor sideline? If you are behind either the home sideline, home hash, hash, or away sideline, behind means going backfield towards where the visitors stand, not where your band director on the home crowd. So behind is going backfield that direction, and if you're in front of any of those lines, that means you're going towards the front of the field, where the press box is, where your home stands are, where your fans are watching you, or where your director is most likely teaching you. Okay, and now for the last bit of information that you need to know from front to back. We've already decided if we are behind or in front of either the sidelines or the hashes. So now we just need to decide how many steps we are, and that is basically the same process as going left or right between yard lines. That 8 equal sized steps, our normal marching band stride. You'll use that same amount of distance between your feet on each step to calculate these steps. And there is a little shortcut, kind of the math with calculator shortcut. There are some ticks on our little yellow lines. Some of them are a little bit hard to see, but they're there, that can speed up that process for you instead of having to march 28 steps from the home sideline to the home hash. There's 28 steps between each sideline and each hash, so it makes it nice and easy. So instead of having to calculate all of that up and down, you can use this other system. Okay, so you could actually march the 4 steps, or just go to the 4-step yellow tick mark right there, or go straight to 8 steps, or 12 steps off the sideline, 16, kind of a light yellow line there, 20 steps off, 24 steps off, and then 28 when you hit the hash. Okay, so congratulations on getting through all of that information and the process of figuring out left to right information for your coordinate, front to back information. And now I'm just going to show you the whole process kind of in fast mode, and just kind of show you how this whole process would happen in real life, looking at one, for example, drill coordinate. The coordinate that I'm going to find is 4 steps outside side 1 on the 45-yard line, and then it's 12 steps behind the home side line. So here it is. This is kind of what that whole process looks like whenever you are asked to find your spot on the field. Okay, so you can turn around, backfill, orient yourself right, figure out you're on side 1, left of the 50. Okay, so now I found the 45-yard line, and I'm going to find my 4 steps outside, splitting those tick marks. Okay, and now I'm finding my front to back information 12 steps behind, and I found the 4-step tick, 8, and 12.